Walead Mosaad. We're honored to have Shaykh Walead Mosaad here for the second session. We apologize about the last minute room change. We're having difficulty with reservations. So inshallah, this will be our room from now on, Conklin 342.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. So last week, someone gonna flip the page?
Yes.
So last week we introduced the book and the topic. Let's skip that. I think we stopped at 12 there. So we introduced the book and the topic by Shaykh Walead Mosaad, and he arranges the Seerah, or the prophetic biography, in the lines of what we call a didactic poem or a meten, and he did that so that it'd be easy to memorize. So often you'll find many of the Islamic disciplines summarized in this manner. So what that has done, though, sometimes is when you read the lines of the poem, as it were, sometimes it's not clear what he's actually trying to say because it's kind of very condensed. So sometimes they write books called commentaries or shurur and kind of bring out. So what we're going to do, as I mentioned last week, is we'll read the lines in Arabic and in English, and then based on the commentaries that we have available for us, we'll try to explicate the meanings that are there. And just a real brief summary of last week, we said that studying the Seerah prophetic biography is important, not because it's a story and we want story time, but because it informs us and gives us an example about how to go about our lives. So you will find within the Seerah of Muhammad ﷺ a microcosm, everything that's in your life. You will find difficulty, you will find ease, you will find victories, you will find defeats, you will find friendships, you will find enemies, you will find family, and so forth. So all of those things, right, are there as an example for us so that we too may try to follow that prophetic example. So obviously we call that whole example the Sunnah of Muhammad ﷺ. We mentioned also that if you look at some of the other individual lives of the people around the Prophet ﷺ, they can't always be emulated, right? Because the Prophet ﷺ is the one that we try to emulate in as much as we can. Others, like Abu Bakr and Umar, they did things that we would be hard-pressed to try to follow. But the beautiful thing about Islam is, despite the idea that people think we kind of have this example and we have to stick to it, and we're not very creative or innovative, and that's all there is, and so we wind up all being very similar. But what's actually happened in reality is we're all not very similar. There's a lot of variety, there's a lot of innovation, there's a lot of creativity, because we're given the archetype of how to be a human being, but then each single one of us is going to have their own path and how they pursue that path to the best human being they can be, right? And how they realize the reality of the universe, the path towards that goal. Everyone will be a little bit different. Some people will have different doors open for them. Some people have other doors. Sometimes the door will close in front of you and then it will open somewhere else. So everyone is going to be a little bit different. So some people may find it in their prayer. Some people might find it in their fasting. Some people may find it in their interaction with people. But in all of those things, you find it in Muhammad ﷺ. So it's probably not humanly possible for us to do everything exactly in the same way and have the same realizations he did. But at the least, we have that example before us. Because if you don't have an example, if you don't have a methodology by the way you're living your life, and every day that you wake up, you have to think about what is it I'm trying to accomplish today, and you're not even sure what you're going to do the next day. Are you just going to eat, drink, and sleep, and then go back and do the same thing again? And that's the focus of your life, just to consume things, which unfortunately is the focus of many people's lives nowadays, Muslim and non-Muslim alike. Or if you have an example before you and it's a goal you're trying to reach and something you're trying to follow, then that's what gives your life meaning, right? We weren't put on this earth just to be like the cows and the donkeys to eat and drink and sleep and then do the whole thing the next day. We have a higher purpose than this. So we left off on line 13, chapter concerning the noble lineage of the Prophet ﷺ, Nasabu. And the Nasab is the lineage. In other words, who were his parents. Usually though in Arab custom, we talk about the lineage as from the line of the father. Right? The Quran says, call them by the names of their fathers. So the lineage, as we know it, goes through the line of the fathers. Doesn't mean the line of the mothers is irrelevant, but in terms of identifying and affiliation with a particular family, we look at the line of the father. Why? Because the paternal figure or the father figure, grandfather, great-grandfather, and so forth, they are traditionally seen as the kind of protectors of the family, right? And they're the ones who give the family its name and its protection and its identity amongst other people of society. It doesn't mean the father's line is superior to the mother's line. In fact, you find many of the books talk about, the line of the mother and how it goes, where that goes through, and some of them mention that. But in terms of perception in society, it is the paternal role that takes on that role of guardian and protector and that which we identify with. So you might ask, why is that important? Why did he start with that? Why is he talking about the lineage first? Most of us probably don't know the name of our great-grandfather. Anyone know the name of a great-grandfather? More people do, right? Most people, grandfather at least, right? Or they're just, Giddu or grandpa. Most people don't know beyond the great-grandfather. So you might say, so what's important about that? And what's important about that is Muhammad ﷺ was a prophet and he was a messenger. And you will find that the sunnah of Allah, when he sends prophets and messengers, he sends them to their people. In other words, people that know them already before they were prophets, right? People that they are part and parcel of who they are. There's, I think, kind of a fallacy that goes around when you think of prophet, in the popular culture, we think of, this person who came out of nowhere and they're bringing these type of miracles, and then people don't even know who they are, but now because they have a miracle, then, they're supposed to believe in them. But that's not the case. That's not how Allah does it. He actually sends people from amongst those people. All of the prophets of the tribes of Israel, including Moses and Harun and Isa, alayhi salam, Jesus, and Dawood and Sulaiman, all of them were from that particular tribe, those people. They knew them very well. Not only that, but they were from amongst the most respected people or most respected families of those particular tribes. Always, right? They always come from that. Why? Because it's important that they recognize that this message they're bringing with, it's not something that would be foreign to them. It's important that it's not something that is coming from outside and is being imposed upon them. It's a person that they've trusted their whole lives, right? And now they're bringing something that may sound shocking initially, but since that trust was built up over a lifetime, then they have less of an excuse to reject it. So the Prophet ﷺ is known as the Sadiq al-Amin, right? Or al-Amin. He was known as the one who was most trustworthy. And in fact, throughout Mecca, he was well known for his trustworthiness. He would agree that people left their valuables with him. They would seek him out in resolving disputes. All this before he even told them or even had the encounter with Jibreel alayhi salam in Hira. Before that, he was the one who we mentioned later that when the Kaaba was destroyed and they rebuilt it and they didn't know who was going to place the black stone in its place, and it's a great honor to do so. And so they almost got to the point of fighting one another for it. So someone made the suggestion that the next person who walks in the Haram will let him decide. And it was none other than the Prophet ﷺ. He was 35 at the time, 5 years before the Hira. And he told them, take a big blanket or cloth, put the hajar, put the stone in the middle, and then each tribe will carry a corner, and then I will place it where it's supposed to be in the Kaaba. And they all agreed. So, for them to acquiesce to someone like that, and who was quite young, 35 for them is like a kid, like a very youthful person, but for them to acquiesce to that because they knew him and they trusted him. So the lineage then is important so that we know who this person is. Right? There are some revisionist historians out there who will claim that people like Muhammad or Jesus or others were a figment of our imagination. It didn't exist. Like it was made up later on to try to put something over on people in order to control them. Right? But when this nasab, this lineage is mahfuz, is preserved, and for generations upon generations, and for us, we have certainty, the lineage of the Prophet ﷺ back to the, what we call Abu al-Arab, or to the Arab patriarch of Arab tribes, namely someone by the name of Adnan. There were two in kind of the ancient history of the Arabs, because the Arab civilization is quite ancient. In fact, some of the scholars say that Arabic is more ancient even than Hebrew. And that we find in the Quran, for example, the people of Thamud, right, who were Arabs, who spoke that type of archetypal, primordial type of Arabic, not exactly the same as the Qurayshi, or the Arabic of Quraysh that came later on from the Prophet ﷺ, but nonetheless it was Arabic, and they were Arabs, and they were of the Arabian Peninsula. Or the people of Ad, right, also were Arabs. So the two major tribes then, as it's traditionally seen, is that Arabs were originally in the southern part of the peninsula, namely Yemen, right? Sometimes referred to as Arabia Felix, or Yemen Sa'ida, right? The happy Yemen, right? Why? Because Yemen, unlike the rest of the peninsula, is quite lush. And when I say Yemen, I mean Yemen and what's now today called Oman. So that whole southern area of the southern peninsula gets quite a bit of rainfall, and it's where most of the crops can grow, whereas the rest of the peninsula is quite barren and quite hot. But not so in the southern peninsula, so the southern part of the peninsula. So the Arabs originally lived there, right? And those particular Arabs were called the Arab al-Ariba, or the original Arabs. And their patriarch was someone by the name of Qahtan. So many of the Yemeni tribes originally come from Qahtan. But the Arabs who emigrated and went north, they came from the patriarch by the name of Adnan. And they're called the Arab al-Musta'riba. So the Arab al-Musta'riba are the ones who emigrated north. In other words, who became, and Isti'rab means like they became Arabs. In other words, they in Yemen, southern Yemen, and they went north and then brought their Arab culture and tribalism to the northern peninsula. So the Prophet ﷺ was from Arab al-Adnaniyin, or from the patriarch known by his name as Adnan. So he says here, rahimahullah, بيان نسبة النبي المصطفى صلى الله عليه ربنا وشرفه, an elucidation of the lineage of the chosen prophet, blessings and honor of his Lord upon him follows. ونسب المختار محفوظ إلى عدنان بالإجماع عن الفضلاء. The preferred one's lineage, al-Mukhtar is another name for the Prophet ﷺ, is preserved up to Adnan by consensus of the scholars. What about after Adnan? Some of them try to trace it all the way back to Abraham or Ibrahim. What we know for certain is that the Prophet ﷺ is a son or grandson of Ibrahim alayhi salam. What we don't know for certain though are the names exactly between Adnan, who we know up to that point for certainty, the 14 or 15 names to that point, but beyond that, all the way to Ibrahim, we don't know for certain. But we do know for certain that he is from Ibrahim. So I hope that distinction is clear. وهنا أشير لاسم كل منهم بحرف منه مستقل. Let me now indicate the ascendants' names with an abbreviated letter for each one, which he does in line 16. So actually the words here are not words where he says Ma, Shahim, Aqlin, Kamin, Kalghaf, Min Kathmin, Amin, Ma, Ila, Huna, Zukin. So those stand for certain names. So we know the Prophet ﷺ, he is the son of Abdullah al-Dhabih, as is referred to, we'll get to why he's called that, or the one who's supposed to be slaughtered. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said, Ana ibn al-Dhabihain, I am the son of the two people who were supposed to be slaughtered. One of them being the son of Ibrahim, most likely Ismail. Some ulama think, we'll get to this as well, Ishaq, one of the two sons of Abraham. And also the one who's supposed to be slaughtered, his own father, which we'll see with the story with his grandfather when he was given Abdullah as a son. and his name is Abdul Muttalib. So he's the son of Abdullah. Right, so the meme is Muhammad, the ayn is Abdullah, the sheen is Shayba. Shayba was a name of the grandfather who's also known as Abdul Muttalib. So Shayba Abdul Muttalib, same person. The son of Hashim. So the Ha is for Hashim. So the sub-tribe of the Prophet ﷺ often referred to as Banu Hashim. Right, so sometimes we say Nabi al-Ummi and Hashimi. So he's from Banu Hashim. That would also include his cousins and his uncles. Like Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib is Hashim. He's from Hashim as well. Sayyidina Ja'far, obviously Hassan and Hussein, the two sons of Sayyidina Ali. Sayyidina Abbas, also from the tribe of Banu Hashim. And Banu Hashim was the tribe that was singled out by the Meccans when they did the boycott in Mecca, which we'll come to. So there was a time when the persecution was so great that they boycotted not just the Prophet ﷺ, but the whole of Banu Hashim. And included in that tribe were non-Muslims too, people who hadn't accepted Islam yet. But it didn't matter because Arabia was a very tribalistic society, and so it didn't matter Muslim, non-Muslim, but they wanted to hurt the family of the Prophet ﷺ. So the son of Hashim, the Ayn stands for Abu Manaf, who is the great-great-grandfather. The Kaf is for, or the Qaf before Abdat is Qusay. And Qusay was the one seen as kind of the father of Quraysh, the tribe of Quraysh. So Qusay is the same as Quraysh. And Qusay was seen as, you know, one of the most illustrious of the Arabs of the whole peninsula. And he is the one who brought that honor to the tribe of Quraysh. So that's the Qaf, and stuff like that. Then the Kaf was Kilab, the father of Qusay. Then the Mim is Murrah. Then the Kaf again is Ka'b. Then the Lam is Lu'ay. Then the Ghain is Ghalib. Then the Fa is Fihr. Then the Mim is Malik. Then the Nun is Nalab. Then the Kaf again is Kinana. And then the Kha is Khuzayma. And then the Mim again is Mudrika. Then Ilyas. Then Mudab. Then Nizar. Then Ma'ad. And then the last one being Adnan. So Ma'a ila huna zukin. So this part, we know them exactly. So those are the fathers and grandfathers of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned one of the hadith, خرجت من نكاح ولم أخرج من سفاح. He said, my lineage is a noble one. It came from unions that were in marriage and did not come out of something other than that. So part of our creed, our theology of Muslims, that we believe the best about the lineage of the Prophet ﷺ, that there was no zina, there was no adultery in any of that lineage, all the way back to Adnan, and there was no kufr. There was no outright kufr. We don't say that the parents or the grandparents or other of those were kuffar. The least that we can say about them is that they were from Ahl al-Fatra. And Ahl al-Fatra means they were the people of the in-between time period. Because we know that in between Jesus and Muhammad ﷺ, that's 600 years or so, 570, 600, there were no prophets, there were no messengers. So that means anyone who was living in the world at that time, after Jesus didn't die, but he was raised to the heavens, after that happened, there was nobody around to be a prophet. So that means that those people are Ahl al-Fatra. They are people of the in-between period. And the thing that we hold in our theology about the people in between period is that they are not accountable. Allah says in the Quran, وَمَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ حَتَّى نَبْعَثَ رَسُولًا. And we will not take people into account, we will not punish, chastise them, until we send a messenger. Right? And that's true not just for the people of Ahl al-Fatra, people of the in-between period, but anyone, everywhere, for all times. Someone who doesn't comprehend and receive the message of the deen as it is, can't be held accountable. Some of our greatest ulama, like Imam al-Ghazali, said even to the extent that people who have a twisted idea of what Islam is, a twisted idea of who Muhammad was, and they don't really know him, they won't be held accountable either, because it's like they don't know him. Right? That's why not just part of our creed, but part of